Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Annie Kolatkar, and with me is Ashley Lee. And today we are going to focus our topic of discovering your true love language. We're going to leap through our consciousness and leap through the love languages. And this is a really important topic because we have all been raised with conditioned love. We've all spent our lives looking for unconditional love. And there's a reason why it rarely exists. And we'll get to that in a minute. I wanted to invite each of you today to do a little healing constellation with Ashley for her knee, which is experiencing some challenges. Ashley has the ability to physically surrogate challenges, and the world is very resistant to unifying to move forward. And it comes down to their refusing to surrender to the love that they are. So I am going to step into the role as a representative, and you may join me and step into the role of yourself first and all of humanity. And we're just going to run through the first statements of these consciousness challenges that I just acknowledged.
Yeah,
So
and I'd love to share for just a minute about this idea of physical surrogacy, because it's a form of being an empath. And I sense many people listening today and all throughout the world are also physical surrogates. And why is that? Because we care. And so we can sometimes feel, literally feel, and experience pain and suffering in our body, where we feel the suffering of others. Many of us could be called healers, and there's some unspoken healers too, right? Like some that don't turn into a nurse or a doctor or something like that, right? But they could also be anyone, like lots of mothers are physical healers with their children, right? They want to support their children not experiencing pain and suffering. And so we open our heart and we have that energy literally come in us, experiencing some of the challenges, the discords, the conflicts, and the right out, like you shared, resistances to what is happening in our world, because we don't want pain and suffering. We don't want to experience the negativity in the world. And so many of us, when we don't want to experience, it kind of becomes this energetic overwhelm in the whole world. And it's like the energy is wafting all throughout our planet. Negativity, challenges, pain, suffering, resistances, protest, demand, insistences. And when we do that, we impact each other energetically, and we may not realize it. And so many empaths, or who are open to feeling what other people are feeling, may not know how or experience challenges to navigate these energies. And we didn't realize we're actually sending them out to the world, our own negativity or our own pain and suffering. And we want others to experience it so we can have a better experience. Does that kind of make sense, Annie? I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to share a little bit about it, because I sense I'm clearly not the only one having these painful experiences and wondering, where did it come from? Like my whole left knee is swollen, red, hot, super sore, super painful, and I did absolutely nothing to provoke its existence physically. No previous anything, no nothing going on, no injury, no nothing. And it just showed up. And it showed up about 2 days ago, and it was very interesting because I went into a high level of surrender to what is, and started to then become extraordinarily clear about our world situation. And we're all tuning into the world because we're all stepping up to our own interpersonal responsibility, to our responsibility to ourselves, each other, and the world we're here to create. And I sense that's maybe why these feelings of uncertainty or pain or suffering is re-illuminating itself. And Annie and I wanted to invite everyone today to really have the inner experience, the inner awareness, that visceral awareness of how we can shift our lives and start to shift the pain and suffering inside ourselves.
And many of you know that Ashley and I work on behalf of humanity through my family constellation format, where I step into the role of, and we allow everyone to get an upgrade in their consciousness from a very loving place, that it's available to them. And we simply share the conflict resolution. We share what's available to open into an expanded awareness to support them healing their lives and standing in their power of love. And that's what today is about. So because I was so direct and wanted to just jump right in and take care of business. That's me. I'm a functional leader, and I tend to just go, yep, let's go right to the work and get it done. Thank you for that beautiful explanation, Ashley, because in fact, I would say almost everybody in our channel is an empath of some sort. And we do have physical empaths present, and I am going to make sure I tag this video for that gorgeous explanation. So as we step into all of humanity, we just take a moment, everybody take a nice deep breath and breathe in and connect to the love that you are. The first thing we did when we were born in this world is we took a breath and we received from life. So that vital force energy, just breathe. Now we have the ability to give, right? We filled our vessel first. Okay, so I acknowledge, and I'm doing this from perspective 5 from the world, that I'm doing this, that everyone who I notice is doing it too. I'm doing this from perspective 5. I acknowledge I have a conflict with refusing to bend consciousness and all the ways that my thoughts, my me-centrism is what matters, that my survival is more important than another's, that I get my hopes, wishes, needs, and desires met first, that I should never have to yield to someone else, that I demand that others yield first, and that I see everyone else going first before I have to surrender to being the love that I am. And I release all of this from my conscious awareness, recognizing that my opportunity to surrender to the love that I am is my ideal, optimal state of being in thrival, recognizing I am one with God, recognizing that I am one with all things inside pronoia, that the universe is conspiring to support me, that it was my ego and my consciousness challenges that were preventing me from seeing the truth of my true nature of love. And that my true nature of love is what allows me to be flexible, patient, loving, compassionate, open, and kind. And in this moment, I take a breath and I anchor my human kindness inside myself firmly. And it is with loving generosity that I now choose to move forward with flexibility and adaptability, to be unified with all others in an us-centric world.
And I acknowledge that surrendering and yielding to other people's pain and suffering is an opportunity inside my conscious choice to be present, caring and loving unconditionally to how everyone is experiencing their challenges, including my own. And I acknowledge that I can equilibrate my love with their love with my love. And that even in the moments of pain and suffering, chaos and challenges, I choose to be present to the negativity, to allow that negativity to move through me, lessening my desire to avoid it or protest it or make it wrong or bad. And I acknowledge that I have the opportunity to move through this pain and suffering with vim, vigor, energy, love, support for myself and all others. Being present, absent of pity and sorrow for myself and all others, standing in my true nature of love, standing in my power to move through the pain and suffering, to see what's on the other side of that, becoming aware with clarity, creating solutions based in love from those challenges I just walked through. Owning my presence, owning our presence, and becoming innately responsible to support this transformation within myself and all of the environments I choose to participate with. And I shine that divine light inside of me. I illuminate that, and I see the divine light in everyone else.
That actually brought a smile to the representative for all of humanity.
That we carry the load of challenges together, and together we can move through them.
Conscious healers.
Yes.
Conscious leaders.
Yes.
And that's why we're cleaning up our love languages. Let's elevate. I was saying to Ashley earlier, let's dive in is such a euphemism. Hold on, let me snooze my computer wanting to restart. Okay. We are just looking for new language for how we, move into an arena that's really exciting, and sure, the deep dive and everything. And maybe for now that's great, but I really just love the words elevate. It just feels good, and it does have a little lift to it, which is a little bit of a pun. So how did we get here? How did we get to the point where we are so into clinging to our preferred ways of sharing and expressing our love, and having others share and express their love to us? This is what we're going to discover today, because it's so important that we clean up our expressions of love. So we have had somebody in our universe identify 5 love languages, and we've been sharing thoughts about these love languages here on the channel, and I'm just going to cover them very briefly. We may have one that we express very fully, or we may have soft expressions spread out in all 5 categories. So there are gifts, quality time, physical touch, words of praise and affirmation or validation, and acts of service. And as they suggest, gifts is, I will buy you something. I will pick a wild flower on the side of the road, and when I see you, I will give it to you. It could be something small and free, or it could be something very expensive. I bought you a Porsche. I bought you a house, and how come you don't treat me nicer. I mean, there's so many thoughts that go into gifts and gift giving and gift receiving. There are some people that are terrified of receiving a gift because they sense the hidden conditioned thoughts behind the gift. And they do not want to receive the owedness, the favors, the debt, the slavery, or the price they will have to pay for having accepted that gift. And this is what we're talking about. Inside our love languages, we actually have fear-based thoughts that I need to give you a gift in order to get something from you, whether it's your loyalty, and I'm pretty sure everyone at the coffee and the bagel stores created these loyalty programs because gifts was their love language. If you come to me 10 times, your 11th one is free. And that's my gift to you for being loyal. So we combine multiple consciousness challenges with what we're doing. And it creates limitation in the expression of love itself. So we have
We sure do, and we even, like in the gift giving, we train people, like our family members, when we give them a gift for Christmas or their birthday or something, and we give them a tangible gift, and then through their childhood and then into their adulthood, and then we give it every year because it then becomes an expectation that I'll receive those gifts. And so in that process, it's just amazing because with my family, for example, I went on a spree about 12 years ago and I decided not to give any gifts anymore. And the first year I decided not to give any gifts and they're like, what's going on? You're not giving any gifts. I go, I know, it's amazing. I love you with or without the gift. And then they're like, oh, whatever. And then the next year I didn't give a gift again. And then they're like, oh, whatever. That's just Ashley just being cheap. Or they came up with all these excuses on what, not all of them. I'm just kidding. But what I'm saying is that we do that, right? We have excuses of why somebody's not doing what we've trained them to do. And then the third year I came in, and every year after I said, could we gift give with experiences? Could we go on a vacation? Could we travel? Could we call each other? Could we get on video conferencing even if we can't come together? Could we celebrate our presence with each other? Our literal, not presence with a TS, right? Our presence with CE. So bringing that into our world.
Excuse me. I'm just going to turn off my air conditioner. It's malfunctioning. Excuse me.
Okay. And in that process, what I did was I supported our family looking at how we use the love language of gift giving in a very different way. So now when we all come together 10 to 12 years later, the experience that we have together is phenomenal. It's phenomenological. And the experience is we chose not to go over past histories of what was occurring. And when we did that, we had fresh and new experiences that we couldn't even explain. They were like mystical experiences that we had with each other. We spiritually connected heart to heart on levels we never knew we could. And we never had to say that to each other. We illustrated it. We behaved it. We went through it experientially, and it was amazing.
Exactly. So I am going to quickly run through the other love languages and give the contra side that pops up and rears its ugly face when we don't get what we want. And I think that's going to help people connect to deeper levels of why there's problems in these love languages. Okay, so acts of service. I will share my love with you by doing the work for you. This is very typical of mothers. And if their love language is acts of service and they ask for help one day and it's not given, like, my mom would do everything for all 5 kids and her husband. And then if she asked you to take out the garbage and you didn't, she thought you did not love her. And she would rant like a victim. I mean, it was really cute in some ways because she's like, God, I do everything for everybody all the time. And then I ask you to do one thing. And then it's like, oh, whoa, and wow, why such a big reaction? It was just the garbage, no big deal. Well, it was no big deal for the person whose love language is not acts of service. It's, words of praise and affirmation. For the next kid, it was physical touch. For the next kid, it was quality time. So, unless the person who is requesting love be shared as an act of service and is very clear that I will ask you to take out the garbage, and if you don't do it, my natural response, because I haven't healed my fear behind it, is that I'm going to assume that you don't love me if you don't do this one kind act for me. So this is where that is a very big problem in the relating. Quality time. When we have beliefs around time, oh, you only have one life to live. Time is short. Time is running out. It's not good to spend time alone. People need to spend time with each other. The list is endless. All these little axioms about how we go through life, and it's all based around time. In reality, there is no such thing called time. That's a human construct that we've created that based on emotions and based on stories, we have a linear experience that we have called time. And when people are unwilling to share what someone has deemed the most precious commodity, time, and you are being cheap and you're skimping on your time with me, it's just, you don't love me because you're not giving me your most precious commodity. Well, wait a minute, my most precious commodity is something else, right? Now we have a disconnect. Physical touch. Now, it's very true that there are some people who will say, oh, my love language is physical touch. And they love to have sex, and they love to hug and cuddle and kiss, and they have to be touching, and they have to be holding hands in public, and everything is connected to the hip. And yet, if you really go a little deeper, you'll find that there's a secondary love language that is woven into the one that claims that physical touch is their love language. And
yes. And I was going to share, what's amazing is that love languages are interesting because we open our heart to experience the love with the other person. And when we open our heart, we open up our sensory input. And so kinesthetic touch people who are sensitive to touch are really challenged by this love language, because many times we touch because we have an agenda, or we have an ulterior motive, or we are touching because we want love returned to us, or we're touching because we want to make love with someone, right? Or have sex, or different things. And with that, there's an agenda behind it. If I touch you, I get this. If I don't touch you, I don't get this. If I touch you, and I know your love language is touch, and I'm going to touch you because I want to prove that I care about you. Well, touch sensitive people can feel that and are like, don't touch me. I don't want you to prove that you love me. I want you to share, love that you love me, rather than. So highly kinesthetically sensitive people feel the touch. It's like, for example, when I was being born, I literally felt the obstetrician, the doctor, touch me. The first fingers that touched me, my head, crowning through in the birthing process, he wanted to go play golf. And I felt that. And I admit that I was a spirit that's a little bit prone towards the negative. Maybe that's the fixer, right? The healer in me, that I had to learn how to heal in myself over time, and learning how to really be present to the healing that we're here to create for each other. And it was amazing because when I got to reframe that, everything about me reframed about the physical sensitivity to touch. And now when people touch me with an agenda, I become aware, I become awake, and I recognize, I go, wow, okay, that agenda is a little bit interesting. And now how will conflict resolve that in myself? being triggered by it. And then how will I presence the awareness for the other person? Because it's probably very unconscious for them. And they don't know that they're presencing their touch with such a high level of agenda. And it sometimes doesn't feel good. And then the person's like, well, I touched you. That's important, right? See?
And what about the person with physical touch that gets hit or spanked or punched? That leaves almost a psychic bruise or welt, or, the physical but invisible verbal slap across the cheek, right? It can
Yeah,
actually manifest as something on someone's face, a black eye out of nowhere, because their love language produced the symptom for how they felt. And then if you throw in the perfectionism consciousness, now you're telling your lover, you've got to touch me a certain way so it feels exactly right. Otherwise, you've missed the point. So, so people can drive people crazy with, combinations of consciousness challenges with a love preference. And
absolutely.
and this
And we
is
get
what
so
we're here.
entangled on this level that's some of these issues and challenges we're experiencing or sharing is levels of quantum entanglement,
Yeah,
and what that means and what that looks like and what that feels like and how that's transferred back and forth.
exactly. So the last one that I'll go in depth on is words of praise and affirmation, which means that someone has an intense need for validation from outside of themselves to let them know that they are loved. And this is very challenging for the person with this love language to turn that around and begin to self-validate. Once a person wakes up to this and makes a conscious commitment to fill their own cup with love, it requires letting go of many, many consciousness challenges, from victim consciousness, victim recruiting consciousness, um, needing someone to love them and choosing to love themselves. That takes you on a journey of commitment to self-love. And this is a big package that you have to commit to. And I know, because I grew up in a big family where we were all in competition for attention. And it was all different forms of attention. And I was, looking for the validation that I was, good enough for those levels of attention inside the setting of 5 really smart kids vying for pole position, which is a sail racing term, and a few other things. So, I have a sister who's an opera singer and a genius in the acting department. Her big thing was getting a standing ovation. Applause, very good, you did it beautifully, right? And so salespeople, they love the plaques and the trophies and the awards. They may not care about anything else. They may just be like, I just want the plaques on the wall that tell me I'm good, because I can just look over my shoulder and go, I did it. I know I'm good. I know I'm worthy. And so when we start bringing in ideas of, am I worthy? Am I deserving? Do I matter? We start to find all the consciousness challenges that are behind that particular love language. So if you scroll up through this last, I think it was all the month of August, I started to drop bits and pieces of love language information so that you could start discovering and going deeper into these areas to discover, what is it that I'm expressing? What is it that I'm doing? Because now you can look at it from a perspective of, I've conditioned the way I express love. So that's where you get the opportunity now to go inventory. Okay, so what was I thinking when I thought this was my love language? What was I thinking I would get? What was I thinking it would make me feel or think and believe about myself? Why did I give my power away to someone outside of me to fill my cup? Now, it's not a make wrong. The whole world was conditioned to look outside of themselves for love. We were all told we were separate from God. Then we were told we had to, look to God to love us when no one else would. Oh, someone else was supposed to love us? Oh, what do I have to do to get someone to love us? Right? Oh, well, I guess I better be a good person. I guess I better give to get. I guess I could give a gift to get. I guess I could give my time. I could give my service. I could give praise and uplift somebody, right? I'm a venerator. It's kind of what I do best. and it gets extra confusing when you're naturally and organically a venerator and you're doing the witnessing, the divine witnessing to the light inside others, and at the same time you're giving genuine words of praise and affirmation accidentally for the person who has that as a love language. They're thinking that I'm filling their cup. Accidentally, they may be thinking, oh, Annie is the one that loves me the most, right? I got to stick to Annie. So it creates other problems. So when I began to heal words of praise and affirmation, it did not come through the veneration and become the I'll fill your cup for you, because that's not what I'm here for. And I'm not here as a guru for followers. I want everyone to do self-love and fill their own vessel.
And how do we promote that, support that, help that, steward that, facilitate that, guide that, teach that? All of these different words that share the same thing as how do we embody our giftedness, sharing our giftedness to the giftedness of others, and this propensity or this preference about how we'd like to share love with each other, acknowledging it. Well, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting or choosing to have a preference. That's sort of the fun out of life, right? We get to choose. And what if the preference, though, isn't a have to be? I think that's where we make it conditional with each other. And that's what we mean by conditional love. Since I prefer my love language is gift giving, if you don't give me a gift each year or when you see me or whatever it is, right? Whatever the expectation is, if the expectation isn't filled, then all of a sudden conditionally I share, you don't love me. But I share it with myself. I don't share it with you because I don't want to disrespect you or disregard you or be ungrateful, right? And so what we do is we hide it in ourselves, and then we feel that way about that person, and then we don't know why we feel negative about them, and they don't know why we feel that we feel negative about them. And so everybody's running around with all this negativity that no one's really become aware inside themselves about what is going on here. Why do I feel negative about Annie and her not wanting to I don't know. I don't know what my love language is anymore. I think it's called being present.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love all of those love languages. Why would I prefer one over the other? It's kind of funny. And the cool thing about it is when I open up and I want to share love with others, I'm like, what is their preference of what they want to share? Because when they prefer to share a certain way with me, then I'm seeing their giftedness naturally just unfold rather than demanding me being pleased by their presence.
I was just sitting here thinking about how almost everyone in our channel has come from the Stellar Networks community, the RV community. There's a variety of ways that people have invested in metals, and everyone's going to be experiencing prosperity. And the temptation is going to be to give gifts. How can it not? I want to share. My heart is so full of love. I'm so generous. This is to correct all the wrongs in the world. And there are challenges behind the gift giving. There are some gifts that you could give that would actually perhaps put the person in harm's way, where they might accidentally die. Give a drug, addicted person a huge gift and they could potentially overdose. Give a young kid a very powerful car and they could race it and hurt themselves or someone else. I'm not projecting fear here, but thoughtful gift giving requires going inside and listening to your inner guidance. It requires, am I overwhelming someone and putting them into fear of stewardship? If I give an inappropriate amount of money, am I giving a gift that they do not know how to care for? Like a house that they don't know how to self-organize to be responsible for taxes and maintenance, or how they run the property, throwing parties, getting the neighbors upset. Who knows, right? Can have a fabulous pool in the backyard that encourages hundreds to come over and make a big splash. My point is, when we recognize that our intention is really about getting individuals out of survival and into thrival, and uplifting them to the point where they have reprieve from their, let's just call it debt enslaved reality, right? We want to relieve them of that and give them a chance to listen to what in my heart of hearts gives me my highest excitement, so that I can start living with passion and purpose again. What is that answer? Then perhaps directing your gift to these individuals is more thoughtful in terms of, would you like an all expense paid retreat somewhere so you can get in touch with what is your highest and best excitement in life? Would you take time off to accept this gift, to reconnect with your true purpose in the world? May I have all of your bills and take care of them while you are doing this retreat, so that you can come back refreshed and empowered? Would you like that gift of time to self-love and self-care, to reconnect to why you are really here? Now we're getting into deeper levels of thoughtful giving and thoughtful stewardship, because we don't want to put anyone into fear or overwhelm or cause them problems. And that is why we're exploring the love languages today and not after we have abundance, because everyone's going to say, oh, I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm on a spree. I'm taking care of humanity. And honestly, this is going to happen wildly, but nothing's truly going to get solved in their lives if they're distracted by the money, by I want what I want, and now I can have what I want, and it's all inside me centrism. Because if we have lived a life without satisfaction and satiety or satiation, then the craving and the desire for more and more and more is going to persist. They're going to keep coming back to you to fill their cup with something that does not satisfy, but actually leads to deeper and deeper levels of, deferring their inner work. We want to make sure that we're not doing that. And that is why this is a stewardship class on self-love, self-care first, and love and care of others after you've taken care of yourself first. So
yes, and as we do that and fill our cup up, right, we develop naturally self-awareness, self-healing, and self-mastery. And a lot of times we say we're going too deep, or we want it simple, or these sort of things. The really cool thing is, as humans, we know we're alive. We know that we can gather awareness. We know that we can experience awareness. And when we do that, we have many dimensions of awareness happening all at once. And when we learn to navigate those awareness fields, we start to create a level of abstract building in our environment, which offers nuances, experiences, and levels of excitement that many other species in our perception aren't necessarily experiencing. And so we have this opportunity to steward when we become aware in all the areas. Our stewardship naturally evolves, naturally comes forward, and we start to naturally see what it is we didn't see or hear or experience before. And then that way we can start to understand and understand these awareness fields without getting kind of hung up on our immediate needs of survival. And we start to move from scarcity and lack and the need for survival to thriving. And what we're bringing forward here is that opportunity is how would we like to thrive? Not just fulfilling the need of feeling good, not just the need of being healthy, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, because it definitely helps when we have that health and that balance.
Right.
But really, what is it that we're here for? What is it that we're here embodied as humans on the planet Earth in this time zone right now? What are we here for? Are we here to fix what's wrong and bad? Probably. But how do we do that naturally, organically, without having to raise a big fit or a big fuss or a big healing crisis or a challenge? When we presence ourselves to who we truly are, taking a moment, taking that time, taking that space to cultivate ourselves to become aware of how to support others becoming aware in the truth, in the excitement, and the love that we are. And it can sound foo-foo and woo-woo and I don't know what lovey-dovey and feminine and all this stuff. But quite honestly, really, how do we do that masculinely? How do we do that in the child energy? How do we do that experiencing the birds, the weather, and the environment unfold? And how do we become congruent and confluent with it in such a way? Well, we've been discovering, Annie and I have been discovering in our research and our process of cultivating consciousness is what? Is moving through those challenges that we believe we have, which are fear-based. And when we're able to acknowledge, accept, recognize, breathe in the challenges that we're experiencing and choose to walk through them with courage, bravery, help, support, love, we start to see the other side of that challenge called emancipated awareness. And none of us can give it to each other. But what we can do is steward that environment so that awareness becomes naturally cultivated inside of you, inside of me, inside of we. That's what I'm here for, and I'm loving it so much to emancipate ourselves in our own awareness of the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the spiritual experiences, our past physical experiences. And we can emancipate each day, being new and fresh, being present, and saying, wow, I don't know what that awareness is. What is it? And we could look towards each other and share with each other what those awarenesses could be that limits our experience to expand ourselves.
Very true. So getting conscious with your unconscious thoughts is the most valuable thing you can do right now. We've been helping people connect to the starting point, which is you have to notice what's in your unconscious mind. So you have to listen to what you're sharing with others. And those are your self-judgments. I can't do this. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Oh, I could have done it differently. I wish I had never. And we go through these initial statements that we speak out loud. When we hear ourselves saying that, we can go, oh, wait a minute. What's my belief? What did I hear myself say that I can't? Oh, that's just a fear. So then where is it that we feel powerless? Those are good ways to wake up to, where am I not expressing self-love? And then when we look at our consciousness challenges, which are the fear-based thoughts that come after those, well, I can't. And then we state why. It's the why we want to wake up to. Or it's the judgments that we're sourcing, not just about ourselves, but about others. So listen to how you're judging others, because that will always bring your energy down. You will create energy leak after energy leak until you're like, oh my God, I just can't believe the day I had. I just have nothing left in me to give, and everything has been about being critical of not just yourself, but others around you. And when you're having those types of days, you got to listen, because that's where you're getting close to understanding, oh, wow, I have fears about everybody. And then it takes about a week or two to actually turn that around. That has been my personal experience. It's been our observation about clients, that when we stop judging the world and we stop thinking that they're doing it to us, hitting us in the face, we start to realize, oh God, I need to own my experience. I need to own it. So we I always raise my right hand like it's a thing with me. All right, I own it. I had my part in this conflict. I judged y'all. I take it all back. I'm sorry. That was me sourcing fear, and I'm letting it go. And in that moment, I clear all the Akka cords, the silver energetic cords that I, sourced a fear, stuck it in my bow and arrow, shot it, and the cord was tied to me. So by taking back those judgments, that's a great starting place. And then realizing, you know what? I'm not here to judge you. That's me being human cruel instead of human kind. And that's not my true nature of love. And we're here to discover our true love language, which is human kindness. And Ashley, you've been noticing areas in yourself where you have expressed love without any conditions. Would you be so kind as to share that experience with others? And then let's open up the microphones for some Q&A.
Oh my gosh, thank you for the question. It's so beautiful. I want to share, I didn't realize when we're born into a family or an environment that's a little bit feisty. And I probably convey that a lot of us are feisty for, and what are we feisty for? Not being arrogant and annoying and knowing it all. We're feisty for the truth. We're feisty for love. We're feisty for things being better than they are. We're feisty for opportunities we didn't know we could have. But when we have that feistiness, also called a fight or a protest or an upset or an irritation, we call it myopic, we're constantly focused on what it is we don't like. And we're constantly focused on what is negative. And we're constantly focused on what we have to fix or what people need to buy. And so we constantly feed this business environment with a need rather than what, right? We're here to discover that love. And then everyone says, well, if we already have everything that we want and we already have everything that we desire, life would be boring. And I'm like, that's so interesting. Like, life is never boring for me. I've never experienced boring. And this is where we kind of, I think, miss the mark from God's perspective or the universe's perspective of abundance. It's like abundance was shown to me that it's superlative. It's the space of best, bestest, bester, best ever, and all the things the kids say, right? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, all that is, there's more that we can have without demanding more or needing more. It just shows up. And I sense as a society, as a humanity, we really haven't lived into those fields of awareness yet. collectively all together. Maybe some few have had that experience of. I can say being born as a healer and being born in the healer realm, I'm focused on what's wrong that needs healing. And it's very fascinating because I really have been on a journey to shift that, to help people recognize just because you're having a challenge, a pain, a suffering, a disease, a condition, maybe it's an opportunity to see something better in our lives that we could see before, that we couldn't see before. And so that a pain and a suffering is an opportunity for something to move to greater and greater levels of abundance to be experienced. And we really didn't look at it that way. And so as you shared, what do? I went into complete surrender. And it's not like surrender, put up the white flag and kill me and drop me dead now. It was surrender of my own will to make things wrong. And I had to let go of, okay, I'm making this wrong, I'm making that wrong, I'm making me wrong, I'm making you wrong, I'm making everybody wrong, I'm making humanity wrong. Now, how do I sit with myself, meditate, go within, contemplate, look at my heart, look at my brain, look at my whole being, and say, I surrender to what is. It's all been created. I'm experiencing in the present moment whatever is negative, whatever is wrong, whatever is bad. And I surrender to that because I recognize if I'm witnessing it, even if I didn't source it and create it, I still created it in my awareness because I'm in front of it. And I took responsibility on myself, in myself with that process and sitting with it, being present to it, allowed me to walk through the pain and suffering with unconditional, compassionate love, respect, and honor for the challenges we all created. And in that moment of absolute, I call it sweet surrender, I recognized how I could be present non-judgmentally to discern and assess the challenges that are truly, really in my awareness, in the forefront of what I'm experiencing, to be present to truthfully create solutions based from love. And I recognized if I kept that insistence, I got to heal it, I got to fix it, I got to do it, I'm feeding the very pain and suffering that I'm in front of. And I'm giving more power and more energy to it rather than breathing in the love that I am, being present to the pain and suffering, not avoiding it, truly being present to it, and taking a moment to recognize the power within me, that I can move through my disdain, my upset, my demand, my insistence, my expectations for it to be better. Recognize, evaluate, notice that I'm feeding it with my negativity or protest. Dropping all of that and choosing to be unconditionally present in love with the very thing I don't want to see, and going, wow, how may I be present to steward this transformation inside me, inside us, and inside our environments we create. And that's the stewardship that I've been walking into, to recognize, not to control, not to manipulate, not to fix anything, that we have the capacity to do it all together. And now, since we're not used to that, how do we presence ourselves to stand together, be together, witness together the challenges we have, smile and go, wow, that is a cluster mess we've created. And now how would we like to undo the mess? How would we like to bring forward the very thing we seek together to create? And that's what I'm evaluating and looking at is what is my participation in that stewardship? And I recognize, be present in the now moment, not being so fixated on the regret and the remorse of the terrible tragedies we've created, right? Today represents a terrible tragedy in humanity. no matter who started it, who did it, what did they actually really do. And we can actually see, though, many years later, that the tragedy that occurred was that we still hold it as a bad thing, and we have to fix it. And we've labeled it bad, and we're terrorizing ourselves and each other, throwing out the blaming sword of pointing the finger, blaming, shaming, and complaining. And we're only feeding this continuation of these sort of behaviors that our planet has accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And when we just go to this space and be present to it and say, I'm complete, I'm no compete, I'm no longer going to give judgment to this, the heinousness that has occurred in our humanity. Let go of regret and remorse in this moment, being fresh and new. And what can we bring forward for ourselves, each other, our future children of the planet, our future animals and insects and weather and the planet Earth? What can we bring forward that we can contribute it wholeheartedly with our love languages without any conditions tied to them? What can we bring forward to create the world we're really here to choose to create? That's what I've been experiencing. How about you?
Everyone, take a nice deep breath and connect to the love that you are. And just anchor all those words of wisdom and learning in your heart and let that message unfold. And it'll have a beautiful ripple effect. Okay, let's jump into Q&A. And Judy Shady, you're the first one I see, so I'm going to unmute your microphone. Go ahead, sweetheart. Unmute and you're good to go. Judy, unmute your microphone.
This
There
is
you go.
just a wow moment in my life. I want to sit here and cry because I was led here today. I follow you, Annie, in the past, and you just looking at your face, you light me up.
Oh.
I don't go on many chats no more. I'm going within, and everything you said today has just hit me from being touched and somebody touching me, and just the whole wow thing. And I am so grateful because I know it's our God that's leading me here right now to do whatever I'm going to do in this world, and all of us as a collective.
Exactly.
And I just love you so much.
Love you too, Judy. Thank you for your presence here today.
Yes.
I knew I needed some tissue because we're going to be talking about love. And Ashley knows me very well. When I start opening to the frequencies of love and generosity of heart and sharing, I'm like our friend Manuel. I just get very weepy.
I'd
And my
be
mom,
very surprised if there's nobody else crying on this chat right now.
who's from Ireland, used to say, well, you know, the Irish, the bladder is right here.
And I'm part Irish. I'm Ukrainian and Irish. How do you like that combo?
Salute. You know, I think that love is something that we have all come in pre-wired for. Like, we just intrinsically know it. And we don't wake up in the morning saying, no, ooh, who can I be naughty to today? It's like, that's not how we are. I think we just bump into energetic situations and we experience, my favorite word, repugnance. And we just forget to go, wait a minute. I can choose peace. I can relate differently. And then I can share my love and move into a higher frequency of relating than instantly just responding with repugnance. And it takes conscious choice. It takes that commitment to being loving with one another. And that's what we're here to do on this planet, is change how we're relating with everyone. So, if we look at what our commitment to self-love does in the world, is it creates a huge ripple effect. When we say, I'm going to come from love, and then we embody that, and then everyone around us starts to feel the ways in which we are choosing to be peaceful and loving and neutral. And then they take strength from us organically, and they say, oh, look at that. Okay, I'm not going to react either. Oh, wow, that's different, and then they have a chance, an opportunity to be proof, right, that they could be neutral too. And so now when I actually share something with someone where it might sound like I'm coming from victim, I preface, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not a victim, so I don't want any pity, sorrow, or sympathy. And then I share and I say, and by the way, I don't want worry or concern, because that doesn't help. So I have to coach people as I share a challenge that I might be experiencing or a problem in my life, so that I don't trigger the sympath to come out. And we all have a sympath in us until we don't. And the sympath is hiding or suppressing or denying the empath from opening their heart and expressing from true compassion. And so we want to practice the ways in which we are going to abstain from saying things that sound like pity, sorrow, and sympathy until they don't even require thought. Like that's how you know that you have really cleaned up your act of being a sympath. Those responses no longer come. I mean, in the beginning, I was biting my tongue. I'd want to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Or, oh, my condolences. Or, the typical responses. And I would be like, nope, zip it. Think of something else to say. And so I'd sit there and Facebook was a really great place to practice, because, every day someone's announcing, my grandmother died, or I lost my spouse, or my beloved animal passed away. And there's all these opportunities to practice and find your new words. And I did post some of those on the channel a couple times, of how we can word things so that we share our love in a clean, effortless way. May the sweet memories that you created together fill your heart when you feel the pangs of separation. There's ways in which we get to become our own Hallmark card.
And everything, I'm just so totally amazed. Everything you both talked about today was me. About me touching, and me, somebody touching me, and it just blew my mind. Thank you, guys.
We utilize these inner technologies, we call it, in a format that we call I speak to you. So when we're sharing to you, Judy, to you, Myra, to you, everybody, all individually and collectively, in the quantum field and the quantum layer. And everyone, including, I'd love the kids to learn it, is to learn how to speak into these ways, so that no matter where you are in your awareness, you're perfect. And we're speaking and sharing in a way that everybody's heard, and nothing could be implicitly misunderstood. And that the clarity comes through for everyone. And when we're all on the same page, even in different awareness fields, we all start to come together in this in this chat, right? This conversation, we all start to come together and synergistically work in the ripple effect across the globe. And we start to support each other more directly and indirectly on the inner and the outer, really coming together. And that's what I call like synergy consciousness. And this is where we really synergize. And so we bring we up level our presence by, we cultivate setting the listening by hearing your inner hearts speak to us. And we don't, I mean, maybe we script a little bit to have kind of an idea so that we're not just, I call it spiritual AD, where you're just kind of all over the place. And we bring in a general theme that we can all focus with. But really what we're doing is each and every moment being present to the moment we are on the planet right now, and whatever time zone everybody's on or in, right? And then we bring forward this idea by creating that your listening generates our speaking. And so that even though we're the presenters, we're not controlling the room or the chat or the situation. We're stewarding it. And so we're not here to manipulate anybody's perception or thoughts or where they're to be or how they're supposed to think or feel or be in the world. We're bringing this together in a level of consensus that starts to create our reality together. And
Just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So
thank
welcome.
You. Yes.
Anyone else have questions?
You mind if I say something?
Please, Chase.
What's going on,
Thank
Annie?
you.
Ashley. First off, I want to say thank you, God, for everyone that's here right now. And also just want to say thank you so much, Ashley, for that beautiful last moment before you guys went into the Q&As. I really like that pulse of the quantum field of love just went through the entire like universe just then when you were doing that. I was like, whoa, hold up. like literally even while I'm speaking now, like my heart is just like pounding, and it's really, really awesome. So I just want to say thank you also, Annie, for that little bit for talking about the empath and the sympath. That is actually a very, very good point. And it is like your mouth just wants to say sorry, but it's like, why are we sorry again? You know? and when we get past that, I think it's going to be really, really good. And when people actually open up to the love and knowing that everything is all perfect, it's going to be really nice. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Chase.
Thank you, Chase. You know, he presents like the presence of us right now, and that we are creating it, right? That pulse through the universe. You're the living demonstration of sharing that validation that we are that pulse. Thank you. Please, Annie, share.
I had a really interesting conversation with a girlfriend who's a friend of the family, who actually knew my mother before she knew my sister. And she said, I did not know that when people pass out of their body, that they're actually more available. She goes, my mother died 2 years ago, and I didn't know that, like, I could be talking to her every day. Like, I didn't have to pick up the phone. And she goes, she told me, she said, I feel the presence of your father. And she said, I talk to him all the time. I've been talking to him for years because I feel him in my awareness. And I said, oh my God, that is so amazing. And I was like, yeah, I talked to him too. He was the original tinfoil hat in our family and kept us all awake for as long as we've been alive. And I feel like I'm carrying the torch and have those conversations with him almost daily. And it was interesting because I was like, wow, it's only very recently that you realize this. And I think that's why when we have me-centrism, well, I want what I want when I want. I want you in a body so I can have that proof that you're here, because then I can see it. Because what if I can't see your light body, right? And so I feel better, you know, the old axiom of safe, happy, and loved when I get what I want and it's comfortable for me. So it's more comfortable for me when you're in a body. It's like, well, wait a minute, when we stop and actually think about what are the truths. And I think it was within the last 7 days, I posted a quote that Ashley shared with me, which was, if you can unlearn something, it was never true. And so if you look at what was not said, was once you learn a truth, it's with you forever. And when you recognize that we are immortal beings, and you recognize that light is just present and it never really is destroyed. It can unify. Once it touches you forever, that's yours. That love that you share with someone organically, authentically, without the consciousness challenges, that's yours to keep forever in your conscious awareness. That is why we share that the opposite, the consciousness challenges, the moments where we disconnected from our true nature of love, we must heal those. We must get into the practice of clearing all those quantum entanglements that we created by judging people. And the reality is that once you become more practiced with this, you can actually start doing it what I call family constellation style, right? In your mind and in your heart, you imagine everyone in front of you energetically presenced in the quantum field. Okay, everyone, I admit it. I single-handedly created this conflict in the family, right? And you're energetically sharing it with all parties who are participating in the conflict. If you're a witness, you're a participant. You had your part in it because you saw it, you heard it, you were on the telephone gossiping, whatever. And so when we do this level of, okay, I take it all back, we're cleaning and clearing those aka cords between us. And we're scraping off the barnacles, as our Hawaiian kahuna friend Manu shared. If you let a rope sit in salt water, eventually a whole bunch of, crustaceans and barnacles and scum and algae and seaweed, things are going to get caught on it like fishing lines. That's discord, right? So if you have an aka cord with someone and you let all of those quantum entanglements just sit there and fester with more conflict, and you keep judging it and bringing up the story of the past, more barnacles are going to keep growing on that cord. So you got to get out your conflict resolution cleaning brush and just start cleaning until it's all cleared. And then that line is nice and smooth and love has been restored. Doesn't mean you have to go back. It doesn't mean that you have to have an active relationship. Some people have died. Some people have moved on. Maybe you don't work with the boss anymore. Maybe they're retired and you're still at the company, and on a daily basis you see evidence of the conflict. Get out your cleaning brush, work on cleaning those cords, because when you are clean and clear, your frequency is much higher. Your clarity about everything in life, about how to be present with not just everyone around you and yourself, but with what you're working on. Your consciousness then has opportunity to express your gifted state. And your gifted state may include your superpowers. And when you're coming from love, your superpowers and your giftedness gets expressed on magnificent levels. Absolutely magnificent. There's no shade on it. So keep cleaning. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Comments, feedback? Do you struggle with the love language? Is it hard to get out of your love language and move on? Do you struggle with someone else's love language? And how do I get my spouse to stop wanting expensive gifts? I swear to God, it's going to make me go broke. I mean, there are spouses out there that suffer someone always buying gifts for themselves, and the credit card bills come in and it's like, oh, but acts of service, gets up in the morning, gets dressed, goes to work, and pays the bill. so that that one can have gifts. And do you see the conflicts in those scenarios? They're big. So as we start looking deeper at the ways in which we are creating false self-love and demanding false love from others, we can start opening and recognize, oh my gosh, I may have created quite a few quantum entanglements, and now I get to clean them up and clear them up. And you have our loving support here on the channel, and feel free to post questions and we'll be there for you. And our database is currently sitting at 7,220. So if you want to tune into your conflicts and ask, by all means, post in the channel and say, Annie, let me know what these numbers are. And we'll get those back to you if we can. And if you would like to have an empowerment, which is a love-based frequency of strength, of innate, amazing giftedness that you can use to bring to a situation, just request that number. Those are at 1617, so 1,617. And Ashley, I'll let you explain why there's such not diversity, disparity. Is that the word, disparity, in the number
Difference.
sets?
Yeah, it's really interesting in our work. What we're doing is ultimately we're healing the victim consciousness inside ourselves, right? And when we heal victim, then we're no longer, it's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg, the victim or the perpetrator. And many people have yet to realize in their awareness that victim and perpetrator is the same energy. It's just two different sides of the same coin. One is light, one is dark. And we tend to preference the light. And so we tend to preference the light in us, which is we become victim consciousness to perpetrators. And then when we get mad enough, we turn around and we then become the perpetrator. And then we don't like being the perpetrator because that's not our true nature of love. So we go back to being the victim. And what we're here to do and to support everyone is to emancipate yourself right out of that ballpark called victim perpetrator consciousness and move into the divine true state of love that you are. And some people may perceive that as we're moving out of bipolar, we're moving out of cause and effect, we're moving out of causality. Well, to a certain degree we are. We're not charging every mental thought with an emotion that we have to fix or we have to chase happiness with. And so we have an opportunity to go into new awareness fields absent of victim and perpetrator. And we realized for thousands of years, we've been wanting to heal the perpetrator or fix them or blow them up or send them off the planet or whatever it is we felt we wanted to do. Yeah, whatever we wanted to do to them.
Here's the reward.
It doesn't work out so well, right? The perpetrator's like, what?
Well, you just brought up something amazing, Ashley, because if we take our 5 love languages where we have a preference for how we have it shared, we are victims if we don't get those preferences. And then
Absolutely.
We can be perpetrators to the ones that we know, and it's like, oh my gosh, it can get so ugly very quickly. And that's just the reality of why we want to wake up to discovering what true love truly is.
It truly is. So when we're kind of in the role of the victim, we've recognized that if victim and perpetrator are stuck to each other like Velcro, and we unvelcro ourselves, and we heal the victim consciousness, and the victim says, I'm not playing anymore. I'm going to move over here and play life differently. Then the perpetrator has one to play with. And that energy just starts to dissolve on the planet. Naturally, we don't have to make it happen. And so what we want to do is we want to recognize whenever we're feeling sorry for ourselves or feeling less than or not receiving our preferences, those sort of things. What we haven't learned in the world is that receiving comes first and sharing then naturally comes forward. And now in a business model or with money, how do we deal with that level of reciprocation, of valuing one another? Well, we're all learning that inside ourselves right now. And so the victim consciousness comes up when we have fear-based thought forms. And so we didn't realize that our society, our human society, has so much fear-based thought forms to quantify and qualify that we're victims. And yet when we stand in our true nature of love and when we're empowered, it's simple, it's elegant, it's easy. And so right now the ratio seems to be, we haven't focused on every area of possibility of being a victim or being in fear-based thinking, we call consciousness challenges. But to have over 7,000 consciousness challenges and have just over 1,600 empowered states of being represents when we stand in our true nature of love. It's simple, it's easy, it's elegant, and by the way, it spreads much further, as Chase just said, right through the universe than our regimented fear-based thought forms. They stay small. We can accelerate them with power, with emotions. They stay small. They don't support life. They denigrate ourselves and each other so that it causes more separation, more fractured forms of reality, and which causes more, for me, causes more mental and emotional, physical and spiritual illness than standing in our empowered states. But a lot of times we're avoiding our negative states because we don't want to feel them. It doesn't feel good. So what's valuable is to, why we gave so many, such a big list, is those are frequencies. Those words are frequencies. So we wanted to give a value to those frequencies so that we could understand what they are, on how to navigate them and go, oh yeah, that's it. That's what I feel. That's what I experience. And then choose to go through the conflict resolution by releasing all judgments. Then we stand free from that frenetic energy in our environment. And it's easier to breathe in that loving, empowered state of being, expressing that widely and far. And a lot of times when it's simple and elegant, soft and supportive, it's not as strong as what we're normally feeling in the frenetic world. So that's why everyone calls it subtle energies. I'm excited to see the day when our love energies become just as palpable as our negative energies. And then that's really a real objective indicator to recognize that our consciousness in humanity has really shifted. Thank you for that question.
Oh, absolutely. Because it is a head scratcher, right? But love accomplishes so much more in the world so simply than the fear-based experiences which complicate things. And then people have to, get through the weeds, as I like to say. And then, in this case, we end up, love just builds a beautiful garden, doesn't it?
It surely does.
With that, I just want to give everyone my heartfelt thanks, and I share my love with you today and always, here in video or over in the channel. And thank you for holding space today to support the healing of the world of their consciousness challenges in the arena of love, and also with surrendering to the love that they are. You have our eternal gratitude. Thank you
and
so
living right and living our love language unconditionally.
Yes.
Right. And I think it'd be really cool because I started to let go of the preference of the 5, and I started to find more ways to express a love language, like outside of those 5. And so I invite everyone to play with that a little bit and experience the preference of your love language, and then try the other ones on unconditionally with others in your world, and then discover what new love languages there are, because I bet we could make 1,617 of those love languages.
I know.
And more. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we're all going to be more present with our love, opening our hearts with compassion, and maybe even transmitting it through a smile.
Yeah.
Start simple and grow your love. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next video.
Later.